Now at 5 and streaming on CrossroadsToday.com, local authorities found cocaine and marijuana during a search warrant this afternoon. Now this man faces charges.
6 years ago today, Antonio Vela Jr. went missing. Still no break in the case.
And ERCOT operators expect the power grid to remain safe as temperatures continue to soar throughout the state.
Well, that being said, we're all going to have to do our best to conserve energy during the middle part of the day because these temperatures are not going away. Oppressive heat with us all the way through the next couple of weeks. We'll have more coming up.
The City Council in Davenport, Iowa approved financial relief for residents who were impacted by the partial collapse of an apartment building. You're watching 25 News Now at 5. Good afternoon. Thank you for being with us. I'm James Munoz.
And I'm Karina Garcia.
Earlier this week, a search warrant was executed in the 1500 block of Bonham Street in an ongoing investigation. Investigators say they found 281 grams of cocaine, 11.5 pounds of marijuana, assorted pills, and other paraphernalia. Pedro Martinez was taken into custody and faces charges. 6 years ago today, Antonio Vela Jr. went missing. The next day, the 38-year-old's vehicle was found outside the city limit of Victoria County. If you have any information on the case, call Victoria Crime Stoppers 361-572-4200.
An operator for the state's power grid expects conditions to remain normal as they anticipate a surge in temperatures and electrical demand.
So maybe the freebies did generate some added traffic to the utility customer service center in North Austin, but the hot weather threat has people talking.
I think people are excited to learn more about how they can prepare for the summer and for emergencies.
Jill Faulkner with Austin Energy says she is stressing conservation and community to customers who may be worried about the heat turning off the lights.
I think that's important, when we think about conservation and sort of the whole of everybody kind of working together to make sure that we don't have any emergency situations.
Doug Lewin writes the Texas Energy and Power newsletter. He expects the early summer heat to drive energy consumption upward as Texans turn to their AC for comfort.
The peaks are pretty substantial, particularly for June. We're looking at about 82 point. The all-time record is 80, and now they're saying on Monday the 19th, the projection is 82.8.
That is huge peak demand, but Lewin believes the grid is probably safe. Do you think that there's any threat that the lights could go out?
I think it's fairly low. It's not zero, but I think it's fairly low.
He says even with record demand and maybe even some conventional coal and gas-fired generators failing, he believes there'll still be enough solar and wind power during peak times to keep the lights on. He suggests if we want to do our part to save the grid, update to high-efficiency air conditioning. That's because half of that expected 80 gigawatt peak this week is going to be to run our home ACs.
So we need to focus on the demand response and moving peaks, but we've also got to focus on energy efficiency, mostly through HVAC systems, which will help in the wintertime too, by the way.
Severe weather in the south left more than 100,000 people without power. Power Outage US reported at one point more than 200,000 households were left in the dark for at least a part of Wednesday in 5 states, including Texas. Roughly 10 million people in those states are under severe thunderstorm watch. The Storm Prediction Center says there were at least 8 tornado reports and nearly 90 reports of hail. The harsh weather is expected to continue for some parts of the region throughout Thursday today.
All right, Mac, how hot did it get here, and how can we help our neighbors? Do you set it around 72 and leave it? Is that
well, actually, I wanted to comment on that. You're gone all day. Most of us, we're gone 9 to 5, that kind of stuff. We're going to go at least 5 hours away. So even put it up to 78 if you're not going to be home. I mean, I understand you don't want it hot when you get home, but 76, 78 just gives everybody a break. And the other thing is, and it's a great excuse, you don't have to wash the clothing, in the clothing washer during the middle of the day. You do that early in the morning or even late at night. Of course, if your machine rattles a lot and makes a lot of noise, that's not going to help. But anyway, excessive heat, folks, we're going to have to deal with it. Find some air conditioning, a piece of shade, a nice breeze, and a snow cone. And we'll be talking more about the weekend coming up in just a moment.
Mac, thank you. A bus of migrants arrived in Los Angeles yesterday afternoon from Texas. City leaders say the group of 42 people, including 8 children, arrived after a 23-hour bus ride without food or water. They were taken to St. Anthony's Catholic Church and were provided with food and supplies. The migrants originated from Venezuela, Guatemala, and Honduras. Leaders in Los Angeles said they were prepared for this sort of thing and the migrants are welcome there.
The governor of Texas is using human beings as a political stunt. This is obviously, he's obviously a person who's been elected that is not strong enough to meet the moment in his state, but that's okay because all these people here in Los Angeles and in California are more than capable of welcoming these folks here because Los Angeles is a place and a city for everyone, and we'll keep pushing for our sanctuary policies to make sure that immigrants and migrants know that they are safe here, that they are welcome here.
Governor Abbott announced on social media the transportation of migrants to Los Angeles was quote, much needed relief for the border.
Here's your viewer poll this afternoon. Scan the QR code on your screen now to vote. Do you approve of Governor Abbott sending migrants to Los Angeles? Yes or no? We want to hear from you. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to participate, and we'll have an update on 25 News Now at 6.
In Iowa, residents impacted by last month's partial building collapse will soon receive some financial relief.
Davenport City Council approved a $600,000 aid package Wednesday.
You ran for this position.
Sure did.
You wanted to be here. You chose to be where you're at right now.
The Davenport City Council approved using $600,000 in COVID relief funds for an aid package for those impacted by the partial collapse of the downtown apartment building. With Alderwoman Maria Dickman absent and Alderman J.J. Condon choosing to abstain, it passed in an 8-0 vote.
Living in the qualifying area, I didn't apply for nor will I receive any assistance, but fully support it.
Meanwhile, during public comment,
the time to act is gone.
Residents demanding to see more action from the city.
It's sad. It's terrifying that you could go to the store and get groceries and come back to no home.
This as attorneys for Peach Berry, a woman who lost a leg in the collapse, filed to have the demolition paused so they could gather more of their own evidence Tuesday night. Wednesday morning, a judge denied that motion, saying the defendants were not properly notified of the filings. The city's chief strategy officer, Sarah Ott, declined to comment on the request. She reiterated that demolition will take several weeks. Others Wednesday night expressed frustration with how city officials handled warning signs that the building would collapse and are now facing the consequences with multiple lawsuits.
The city is going to be on the hook for tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And the city is acting like everything's normal. Now, I got to tell you, I've done some stupid things in my life, but I've never bankrupted a city.
Demolition at the I-95 crash site should wrap up today so workers can start focusing on rebuilding. A Pennsylvania company is helping with the process. They make a material that comes from recycled glass bottle. They turn them into pellets or nuggets. The material is used to fill the hole on I-95. Then workers pave over it to create a temporary road while construction of a permanent bridge happens above the roadway.
We mill that mixed color glass into a very, very fine powder, almost like a talcum powder. And then we put it through a heating process that actually foams it into a cake. And when it comes out of the heating process, it's a solid cake of foam glass.
In total, workers will use 2,000 tons of the lightweight glass nuggets to rebuild that section of I-95. A group of local students is learning this summer at the Victoria College AI Camp. In this hands-on camp, they're even building small robots out of Lego. Some Cade Middle School 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students spent the last 2 weeks at camp. The robots have motors connected to their own computer memory card built by the students. With the right code, the robots move, turn on headlights, and spin around.
I enjoyed it. The coding challenges were difficult enough, and they were a lot of fun.
I would definitely recommend people going to Camp Ed because it does help with teamwork, and it also lets you meet new people and use perspectives.
Now, these are A and B students in math and science, of course, so that is a qualification, and most of them want to pursue careers in computer science. For more on today's news stories, come to crossroadstoday.com. Read about the Federal Reserve pausing its interest rate hike. That's under news. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click on the notification bell. Stay with us straight ahead on 25 News Now at 5. 9 survivors were arrested on suspicion of migrant smuggling after a boat sank off the coast of Greece.
Also ahead, a grand jury indicted Daniel Penny in connection to a chokehold death in New York City. Greece has declared 3 days of national mourning for hundreds of migrants who are feared drowned after their boat sank earlier Wednesday off the Greek coast. It's one of that country's worst maritime tragedies in years, with at least 78 confirmed deaths. The Coast Guard says hundreds of migrants were on board when the boat sank. Just over 100 people were rescued. The boat was carrying 400 to 750 people and most likely capsized because of a sudden shift in weight. 9 survivors were arrested on suspicion of migrant smuggling. Now we have new information on the Marine veteran accused of choking a man to death on the subway in New York City.
A grand jury indicted Daniel Penny following that incident last month.
Marine veteran Daniel Penny has now been indicted by a Manhattan grand jury, according to law enforcement sources. He's accused of putting subway performer Jordan Neely, who was homeless at the time, in a fatal chokehold inside a New York subway car. While Penny initially faced manslaughter charges, the specifics of the indictment won't be unsealed until he appears in court at a later date. Video of the May 1st encounter shows Penny restraining Neely on the ground with a chokehold. Neely eventually stopped moving and became unconscious. The chief medical examiner's office later ruling the death a homicide. An attorney for Neely's family saying Daniel Penny's indictment is the right result for the wrong he committed. We will continue to fight on behalf of Jordan as this process moves forward. Earlier this week, Penny's lawyer is releasing videos of Penny describing the incident. He says Neely began yelling and threatening passengers, adding that he restrained Neely to protect himself and others, but did not intend to kill him.
The 3 main threats that he repeated over and over was, "I'm going to kill you, I'm prepared to go to jail for life, and I'm willing to die."
Neely had a documented history of mental illness, witnesses telling police he had been threatening and harassing passengers, though Penny was not specifically targeted. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Federal prosecutors could drop some charges against FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried. He's facing 13 criminal charges, accused of stealing customer funds from the bankrupt crypto exchange. He was indicted and extradited from the Bahamas on charges, 8 of them. 5 additional charges were added, including claims he tried to bribe Chinese government leaders. Prosecutors have proposed dropping those 5 charges since the process may not be resolved before the October 2nd trial date. Data from the southern hemisphere, where it's now winter, shows cases of the flu are increasing this year.
This could mean the U.S. is in for another severe season ahead.
In the U.S., flu cases can happen year-round, but most of the time the virus peaks between December and February. So why are we talking about it in June?
We always have flu on our radar.
Flu activity in the U.S. is currently low, but in the southern hemisphere, officials in Australia say cases began increasing sharply in early May. That's an earlier start of the flu season than some years, with case numbers higher than the 5-year average, but lower than around this time in 2019 and 2022. The number of cases in kids is also being watched. More children in Australia appear to be getting sick than any other age groups this year. U.S. scientists typically look at Australia and other countries to try to anticipate exactly how bad the flu will get in the U.S. during its fall and winter.
We can probably expect the same thing to be happening with an early flu season.
Infectious disease specialist Ryan Miller with Cleveland Clinic says when flu season starts this year, we can all help slow the spread.
We still want people to stay home when they're sick. And if they are feeling sick and they have to go do something, wear a mask so that you protect the people around you.
Miller says it's also important to get vaccinated from the flu when the season gets closer.
Really want the high-risk individuals to get the vaccine to protect themselves, but then the lower-risk individuals who are seemingly healthy should get it so that they can protect their loved ones.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Climate Central reports that extreme heat expected to impact large parts of Texas and Mexico is at least 5 times more likely to happen due to human-caused climate change. The National Weather Service has issued heat advisories from southern Texas into southern Louisiana for the day, with the heat index possibly exceeding 110 degrees Fahrenheit. The Electric Reliability Council of Texas is expecting high energy demand in the coming days, and they're cautioning residents to be prepared in case of a power outage.
Well, absolutely. That is going to be our story for, let's see, June. Then there's July. Then there's August. And then, oh yeah, it cools down in October. We're going to be dealing with that, folks. It's another hot one. It's going to be a hot weekend. So we'll talk about how we can best survive all this coming up in just a moment. Stay tuned. Well, good afternoon, everybody. 93 degrees as you head out the door, and even now it feels like 110. You're thinking, whoa, Richard, that's how it affects your body. And so we're most concerned, not that you're, crossing the street or going to the grocery store. It's that people that are working really hard outside are perspiring a lot, and they're not able to cool down. So that's why the heat index is up there. The good news is if you got a nice little breeze going, 20-mile-an-hour breeze, that sure does help things out. Our high today was 96. We're slowly crawling toward that 100-degree mark. We're probably looking at 97, 98 tomorrow. And now what's taking over is not only here in Victoria, but imagine in Houston. All that concrete, all that asphalt, it absorbs heat and it releases it very slowly at night. So the night times are going to be in the 80s over there and in some of our areas as well. It's called the urban heat island effect. So all that concrete, steel, and asphalt, it absorbs this sun rays and it makes it even warmer during the night times. There you see, we didn't have much happening for us. Late this afternoon, one big thunderstorm popped up right over Llano, Texas up there. I hope they're having fun running around in the rain. Hopefully there's no serious problems there. Another thunderstorm just across the border up in Oklahoma. Well, our temperatures today, I mean, here you see your 96, and these are the observed highs for today. So it did get up to 108 in Laredo today, 97 up north, and of course 105 out in San Angelo. Now these are your forecast highs for tomorrow. See, we trying to increase it up to 99. Not that we want to, it's just we have to. And everybody else is going to be looking at 100-degree temperatures. Now, let me just say this is personal opinion. This summer is going to be long and hot. And so the trick is 4x4. If you're going to be away from the house for 4 hours or more, then raise the thermometer or the thermostat on your AC by 4 degrees, 4x4. That way, you know, you'll save a little energy. The house will not overheat that you have to crank it up when you get back, but it'll be at least comfortable when you get back. Heat advisories pretty much all over the place from well, all the way from Lufkin down to the Rio Grande Valley. And right about here, and this is for tonight, there is possibility that some more thunderstorms may pop in the afternoon heat. Now, that's for tonight. Tomorrow, I think that's going to go away. And we can blame the bubble of high pressure. It's the dome of doom. It's going to be with us for quite some time. And that is the reason why we're minimizing any kind of showers here, but we're maximizing the intense heat that's squeezing down on top of us. All right, here's some news for you. Now, my job is to tell you everything that's going on so that you know. That's the western portions of Africa. Next week, 7 days from now, we have a possible spin-up of a depression right here in the Atlantic. That's number one. Number two, there's another one here that probably on Monday or Tuesday may even come up out of the Caribbean across Cuba and into the eastern states. So all of a sudden, it's getting a little busy. I know it's June, but it could happen. And the thing is, the water of the Atlantic is 5, 6, 8 degrees above normal. For you guys in Port Lavaca, get up to 94 tomorrow. And for my friends out in Cuero, you'll start off at 80, get up to 102. And everybody else, we're going to be hovering at 100 degrees. It doesn't matter if it's a degree up or a degree down. It's downright hot. So take it easy. We have an alert day for everybody to get plenty of fluids and don't overdo it in the middle of the day. That is your 7-day forecast, reminding everybody that we do have a QR code. We'd love for you to scan that and put Crossroads Today on your phone. James, Karina, back to you.
Thank you, Matt. Coming up next, we'll take a look at Wall Street. Plus, President Biden announces Live Nation and Ticketmaster will allow consumers to see all fees up front. The Dow rising 428 points, the S&P 500 gaining 54 points, and the Nasdaq up 156 points. Oil up $2.35, closing at $70.62 a barrel. Today, President Biden announced changes to how Live Nation and Ticketmaster sell tickets. Starting in September, the two companies will give consumers the ability to see all fees up front. That way, Americans don't have to worry about potential price increases late in the checkout process. There was increased pressure on the industry to be more transparent about those so-called junk fees. President Biden urged Congress to pass legislation targeting those hidden fees across multiple industries. This is his latest effort to address the issue.
There's new demands from Europe for Google sell off parts of its advertising business. European Union regulators is making the push for the breakup after bringing new antitrust charges against Google. The company plans to appeal. Stay with us. We'll take one last look at your forecast. Plus, these black watermelons have sold for $4,200 in an auction in Japan. We want to invite you to experience our digital streaming service, Crossroads Today Plus. You can find it on your connected TV through Amazon, Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and on your cell phone. Just search Crossroads Today Plus.
Premium watermelon Densuk were sold for around $4,200 each in the season's first auction in northern Japan. The maximum price reached this year was the second highest on record, behind $5,000 in 2019. A Sapporo supermarket made the winning bid. These watermelons are grown in the Hokkaido town of Toma and have a dark green rind that looks almost black. The fruit is shipped until around mid-August.
Some of us remember when those were grown here and they were called black diamonds.
Really?
And they were 30, 40-pound watermelons, and they were delicious.
Were they expensive?
With seed. No, they weren't.
Okay.
But you know why they stopped growing them?
Why?
Because they were too big for the refrigerators. right? So they started growing ones as 20 pounders.
Interesting.
That you can put in refrigerator. But the black diamond for you old timers, that's a watermelon. Oh, and they had big seeds on them, and you can spit them like a half a block.
Okay.
It was
They
amazing.
look delicious. And honestly, anything with water in it.
Well,
just make
I tell you, watermelon is a
Sounds
great
good.
thing to have. It's got the sugar in it, it's got
Yeah.
the water in it, so that's what we're going to need to do to stay hydrated over the weekend. There's no real relief in sight, folks. We're calling it another alert day, and it's going to be like this for several months until the tropics start getting busy and we start affecting by that activity. Of course, we don't want a tropical storm, but we need some cloud cover and rain, and that would be nice because we ain't going to get it for about 7 days.
All right. Thank you, Mac. Thank you for being with us.
That's right. We hope to see you back here tonight for 25 News Now at 6. World News Tonight with David Muir is up next.